Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for the continuation of my second mission of the British El Alamein campaign. Apologies for the really abrupt cut-off again yesterday. My dodgy camera decided to leave at an inopportune moment and give up the fight along with the handful of other men who'd already bailed out on this one. When I was cut off, I'd really just been summing up to say that the fighting has so far cost both sides a certain number of men, either killed or basically rendered hors de combat through failed morale tests they'd routed out of there. And so what we have happening now as I return is that the fighting has really intensified. Our both of our group A's are at relative range 5 to each other, so we're basically at knife fighting distance over there. And the issue is still very much in doubt. So to look at the German side of the field, their squad is still largely intact, but they have been badly weakened by the irretrievable jamming of their light machine gun. And at this moment, most of their squad, including their leadership element, is pinned and hugging the ground. So that's not great. For my part, I've lost about a third of my squad, give or take. And while amazingly, my weakest soldiers in terms of their morale and motivation, my dynamic duo over there have seized an escarpment. For those of you not familiar with the desert rules in Upfront, yes, pretend that's an escarpment and not buildings. And my Group B, my much more formidable combat and leadership group, has got bogged down in soft sand. And I don't mean they're literally bogged down, but it makes life extremely tricky when you're stuck in sand. So that does not help. So the issue, as I say, is in doubt. Let's see whether the game is resolved within the scope of this video. And when I left, it was the Germans' turn. And looking at what they've got, their options are actually quite limited. Had their LMG still been in action, there's a rather decent firing card in there that they could have made use of. As it is, their most urgent task is really to get their command and control back. So they're going to play a Rally 1 card to get Sergeant Dietinger back in the game. That at least allows them to enjoy a full hand of cards at the end of the turn. There's not a lot else they can do, unfortunately, so they are going to discard a sniper onto my command group, unsurprisingly. So looking at his position check, they're going to target individual number 4, Private Hodge is who's being aimed at. And Private Hodge is pinned. Okay, not bad work for the German sniper. Private Hodge suffers a near miss. And with that, the Germans are going to fill up their hand with face down cards, and they get to draw to the full 5 because Dietinger is back in action. Now over to me. The question is, what do I do now? I really could do with some movement cards more than anything, or some shooting cards. Any of those would be good. Not a lot of good options, unfortunately. I could try rallying Hodge now, or I could try taking a pop at that German sniper. It's difficult to know what to do. I think given that I can't do very much with the hand I have, but I do have some half-decent rally cards, I might just take the risk of trying to get my own back on the Germans and depriving them of their sniper. So we shoot back, those of us who aren't pinned, but we don't get him. He's evidently found his feet now. So play goes back to the Germans. Ooh, okay. They're again not going to do very much, but unluckily for me, a Rally 1 card goes over here to get Private Beck going again. and a rally 3 card ensures that the whole of the German Group C is combat worthy again. So we pinned them down for a very short while, but it was almost too good to last. Okay, things could get problematic now. And with that, they will draw their hand. I was hoping to discard some cards. It's really annoying that Hodge is pinned, but I don't want to leave him in that situation, so I'm going to expend the Rally 3 card. Just to get him back. There is nothing else I can really do this turn. So I'm just going to draw a card. Ah, an oasis. All this lovely terrain and no movement cards to get me there. So back to the Germans now. Ah, must be Christmas come early on their side of the desert. They're going to play a Rally 1 card. So the... No, not to bring in a giant cat. No, Oscar, no. Come on, buddy. I need to be able to see the enemy, and your lovely furry self is in the way. Off you go. Go on. So they have rallied their entire squad, and they are going to... No, I'm sorry. I really can't talk right now. I'm in the middle of a battle. I'm sure you understand the importance of these things. So the Germans, they have some terrain cards, but they are in a similar position to me in that they are unable, partly because there's a giant cat in the way, they are unable to get to them for a lack of movement cards. So what they're going to do is, it's a bit of a waste for them. They were hoping to discard these on me if I got moving again, but that other soft sand card can just go into the discard pile. And they'll take 2 more face down cards. I mean, really, we're getting so close to each other. If we end up in good terrain, I don't know how much more maneuvering there is going to be. But they really need to get their other 2 groups into cover. Now back to me, and I'm still in a lot of trouble. Never am really that fond of the smoke cards because they hinder you as much as helping you. So I might just discard that. And I might also discard the minefield card because it's not that helpful. I do want to keep the rally and the 2 good terrain cards. Let's see what I end up with. Oh, more rally cards. Oh, joy, oh, rapture. Ooh, and a fairly hefty firing card. That may prove useful. The Germans finally get what they're looking for by way of movement cards. So they are going... They're going to take a bit of a chance on this because it could go wrong for them. They have terrain cards, but they're going to risk a dash. So both of their groups who are in open terrain are going to play movement cards and advance. German Group C leaves Bernhoff's fallen rifle behind in the sand. Now I have a problem. As soon as the Germans settle down in good terrain, that group over there, they will have achieved natural flanking fire on my Group B, and we're stuck in soft sand. This is really bad. So the Germans are going to draw and they're going to hold their breath. Now there is only really one thing I can do with my hand of cards. I am at relative range 5 to German Group C, and they are flanking me. I definitely have enough firepower at that range to play this card, and I will play it. So no change to the total because, I mean, we're firing from annoying soft sand, but they are moving. Now I hold my breath and I'm just turning over the German cards to see whether there's a concealment card. There is not. We might have a good chance of doing some damage. So they're dashing to get round our flank where they have a fairly hefty firing card of their own that they're hoping to play next turn. I am praying that we stop them from doing that. So opening fire. Sergeant Dietinger is pinned. Corporal Hessel is dead. He bought one. And Private Wolf is fine, amazingly, given that fusillade of bullets he's charging through. So the Germans were unfortunate there. They've lost their corporal. I'll just drop his little SMG in case anyone's mad enough to want to pick it up. So, okay, we've done a fair bit of damage, but unfortunately not the crippling level I was hoping to inflict on them. But I've got a movement card of my own now, which is good. So over to the Germans. Having seen what has happened to that group, German Group B is going to say, damn the cover. They're just going to skid to a halt so that they're not they're not manoeuvring in the open anymore. But a bit more significantly, Group C is going to clamber up some high ground, and that is bad news for me. So I am now flanked. And the only consolation I have is for the moment, because Sergeant Dietinger's pinned, the German hand has been temporarily reduced to 4 cards. Now, what can I do? The sad answer is not a lot, but one of the things I can do is try to get the heck out of this marsh. Well, soft sand. I'm going to take a huge chance and I'm going to get moving. Plus, playing it as a flank card, I may be able to return the favour and flank them in return. So let's see how that plays out. Group A is not going to do anything. Ooh, that could be useful. Now the Germans, not surprisingly, want to rally Sergeant Dietinger. But that's good news for me because it means they can't take advantage of their excellent firing position this turn. And just to scare me witless, the group immediately facing me thinks they can get away with this. They're going to make another dash forward because they think they've got a good place to go. So the Germans draw their full complement of cards. Now, what am I going to do? I need another movement card to get myself out of the soft sand, so they're a bit stuck at the moment. I can discard 2 cards, and I'm not going to discard ones that are helpful to the Germans. So much as I regret it, that Wadi... Actually, no. Oases are quite chancy. I'm going to discard the Oasis. And I'm going to discard this wire card on the moving group. That will teach you to maneuver. Ooh, and I've movement cards. This is good. Ooh, and I hope I can use that. I've just realised I should have held on to that flank card, but I didn't really have a choice, so... No, never mind. Ah, the cat returns. So, over to the Germans. Unfortunately for me, their discomfiture with that wire card is very short-lived. They immediately manoeuvre around whatever the obstacle is. In my case, as I'm the attacker, let's call it some very badly aimed mortar rounds from our lines. And as soon as this huge furry thing moves himself, go on, go on. You're blocking my fire lane, come on. Sergeant Dietinger and his little friend Wolf are going to take advantage, yes, Oscar, those two, going to take advantage of the fact that they're flanking me and are going to pour fire into me from the side. No! So that's the card that they've been itching to play for the longest time. And I have no concealment card. I've been caught with my pants down. So firepower of 4, up to 5 for the hill, up to 6 because we're manoeuvring, and also because we're sloshing our way through soft sand, it's up to 7. This could lose me the game, I'm afraid. So Sergeant Vasey is fine, miraculously. Corporal Barnard is dead. Private Scarborough, is definitely dead. Private Hodge, incredibly, is alive, and one of the German weapons jams. Thankfully, it's Sergeant Dietinger's. And lastly, for Private Weitzel, he is pinned but otherwise unhurt, and that goes out of play. So that was horrible. My squad, such as it now is perilously close to breaking. I'll just do some dropped weapon counters. So there we go, it is incredibly close. Had I lost one other man in that lot, it would have been over. We would have broken. So that was horrific. I'm afraid to say that was a really hideous experience, and the only silver lining is that Sergeant Dietinger now has a broken gun to worry about. And the problem is I have a pinned man trying to get out of there. Well, obviously the first thing we've got to do is rally Weitzel, otherwise we're going nowhere. So I'll play that card to get him back on his feet. But really, there's nothing else I can do with that group this turn, so I just have to draw a card and pray. Over on the German side, Group B is going to slightly lose their nerve again, mainly because the card they had in hand was not quite what they thought it was going to be. Another great advantage of the concealment side of the solo rules. So they're just going to hit the ground in front of my group. Now, Sergeant Dietinger, for all the success he enjoyed the previous turn, now needs to fix his gun before he can do any more shooting. And he does not succeed, so I am safe for the moment. You can imagine the cursing that he's indulging in at the moment. Meanwhile, on to us. Well, we can't advance straight ahead because the German Group B has very nicely plonked themselves in front of us. So I'm going to carry on with lateral movement and just pray I live another turn so we can dive into that wadi. And these dropped weapons go away. We've left them behind. So, oh yes, mustn't forget. Mustn't, in my gibbering terror, deprive myself of a card draw. Oh, now we get loads of movement cards. Thanks. Actually, all of a sudden I'm feeling an urge to throw one. So, Luckily for me, those two German groups don't generate enough firepower to use either of the firing cards they have in hand. Dietinger could chop us into mincemeat if only his gun was working, and it is still not working. Golly, this whole thing could rest on a bit of dodgy manufacture. So the Germans are simply going to discard a smoke card that they're not too keen on at the moment, and will draw another card. Dietinger's fiddling with his weapon is getting increasingly frantic as we move closer and closer to a better position. And all I'm going to do this turn is just yell something triumphantly incoherent as we dive into the wadi. Now, this isn't ideal. We're still being flanked, but at least we're in cover and we're not out in the open anymore. We're definitely not in soft sand, so I'm a happy man. Just going to draw a card and hope that we can do something useful at some point. The Germans again have a frustrating turn. Dietinger has finally emptied the sand and muck and whatever that was clogging his gun up, and he's ready to fire again. Only he's a bit he's not short of targets, but he lacks a good target. Yeah, I'm I'm not really enjoying my position either, though. There's nothing I really want to do with that, but until we get something good, Sergeant Vasey is going to pop some smoke, because we've got no firing cards at the moment. And I think we just need to make ourselves as invisible as possible until we do. So now that Dietinger's recovered, that position generates 16 firepower points for flanking me, which is horrible. So he is going to use that card, up to 7 for the hill, back down to 6 for the wadi, and down to 5 for the smoke. But that's still pretty nasty, so he opens fire. Sergeant Vasey is fine. Private Hodge is pinned. And Private Weitzel is pinned, but thankfully we are otherwise unharmed. I think I chose the right moment to pop that smoke. The Germans are also going to discard that ridiculously huge firing card, because there's no way they're going to be able to play it anytime soon. Back to me. Trouble is, I've got a huge card that I can't play either. If only my other men had survived, if I'd still had the Bren gun, that would have made all the difference, but no. So I'm going to play a Rally 4 card to get my stalwarts back on their feet. Note the breeze, which would normally clear smoke, but because it's not being drawn as a random number check, it doesn't do that. So Hodge and Weitzel recover themselves. But this isn't really a massive help to me because I can't do anything else. So I will draw a card and hope for something decent. Oh, an escarpment. Oh, better late than never. The Germans are going to continue their efforts to pour it on. Having been really quiet for a long time, their Group A is going to try and hit my Group A with this. It is a weak firing card, but that is my lowest morale group. So firepower of 1, reduced to -1 for the escarpment. So I am just going to see what happens. I have no concealment cards, so Private Cleary is fine. Private Moon, thankfully, is fine as well. Okay, so far so good. I'll take it. The Germans won't do anything else, and they'll discard another enormous firing card that they have no hope of using, just so they can cycle a few more cards through their hand. So for my part, yeah, I'm going to do some discarding because a lot of this stuff's pretty pointless. I'll never use that card, and that's just open ground so they can go. And I get a movement card. Yay! And, oh, a reasonable firing card. Okay, that could be quite useful. If only I survive to the next turn to attempt to use it. And luckily, it's looking like I may do. The Germans have gone awfully quiet, and all they're going to do is discard a card. So I don't know what the secret of my survival is there, but obviously they're having some problems. Unfortunately, this is where my own smoke is going to get in my way, but I'm not going to be ungrateful. So my group A is going to remain quiet now, but my group B is going to fire at the German group B. They're the most obvious target because they're out in the open. They're not in very defensible terrain. They're very close, and one of them is extremely worried by the fact that he doesn't have a weapon. So, firepower of 4, reduced to 3 for my own smoke. Damn it. And reduced further to 2 because they have a concealment card. Let's see what happens. Nope, Schussel is... Oh no, Schussel is pinned because he's unarmed. So Schussel's already bad day just got a little bit worse. Schumacher is definitely all right. And Streak is okay too. Oh, not quite what I was hoping for. And that brings us to the end of the first deck. So bear with me while I just shuffle the cards. If you can hear weird slurping noises in the background, that's not carrion birds feasting on the losses. It's the gigantic cat being lured away by the promise of food. So, okay, my slightly abortive firing. Well, I'll take it. It's shooting after a fashion. The Germans are simply going to rally Schussel. Having turned over their cards, I see that they have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to rally cards. That's not good news for me. So they've got him back on his feet. But other than that, they're not really going to do anything. So I continue to be very grateful for this. I'm really tempted to get myself onto an escarpment, seeing as I've got one. It's running a grave risk, but I think at this stage you might as well try and do it. So while my group A lays down covering fire, actually no, let's shoot at their group B because we have the highest chance of hitting something. Firepower of 1. They have no concealment cards, so Private Schussel is all right. Private Schumacher is pinned. Nice. And Private Streak is fine. Okay, not too bad. And I am going to, with my group B, commence another lateral move. and hope that the Germans don't shoot at us. The Germans will rally Private Schumacher. But my luck seems to be holding. There is no fire from that incredibly deadly position up on the hill. What they will do is discard a gigantic card that they just didn't quite have the wherewithal to play. And it is with immense relief that I will throw myself into the safety of an escarpment. Now my smoke is now gone, but we are on a very defensible piece of terrain. And in terms of the game victory conditions, we're doing pretty well. So the British occupy 2 escarpments and the Germans occupy none. So we are quite happy with that. And I shall draw a card. Starting to get more of these movement cards than I actually want. The Germans are going to belatedly think about firing. It's not going to be a very powerful attack. It's from their group on the hill at my group B, reduced to 1 because of the escarpment. So Sergeant Vasey is fine. Private Hodge is pinned. Whoa, these fellows are playing for keeps. And Private Weitzel is fine. We still haven't had any decisive shooting cards yet, I'm glad to say. I'm still keenly aware that if I lose one more man, my squad breaks and the game is up. And while we're on that subject, the German sniper, after what I can only assume is a bit of a snooze, decides he's going to aim at the now pinned Private Hodge. Luckily for me, he's off his game again. Now back to me. Not great choices anywhere, really. I'm wondering whether to rally Hodge or go after their sniper. I think given how close we are to breaking, rallying Hodge is the only safe option. And that's going to slow things down for me again because I can't really do any discards. So Hodge is back, thankfully. And, okay. That wire card will give me a chance to get a bit passive-aggressive on the Germans next turn. For their part, they're going to switch their axis of fire again. So their Group A is going to target my Group A with that, which is fairly nasty. The escarpment reduces it to 1. And I have no concealment cards. So, oh yeah, that goes away. So here goes. Private Cleary is okay. Private Moon is okay. We're doing all right. And the Germans will just discard one of those because they have a couple of them. And their presence in their hand is not proving very helpful. And back to me, I think a discard is in order. I'm not going to be flanking anyone anytime soon. The movement card's worth keeping in case I get wire played on me, so let's get rid of that and that. The wire card, unsurprisingly, is going up there, so the mortar fire is clearly shifted. Evidently someone back there has seen that we're in trouble from that hill and has called it in. I'm very grateful to the anonymous spotter who's doing that. But unfortunately for me, that's not really enough to discourage the Germans, who, still benefiting from their flanking fire, are going to play that from Group C onto Group B. So they cancel each other out. And it's reduced to 2 for the escarpment. This time I'm going to grin and play that, so the attack strength is reduced to -1. Vasey is fine, Hodge is fine, and Weitzel is fine. Nice. That highly aggressive German sniper is going to have another go. And he is aiming at Hodge again. He really doesn't like the man. Oh my gosh. That, I'm sorry to say, has just ended the game in Germany's favour. Hodge just bought it to a sniper's bullet. The Germans, I suppose, smile smugly and end their turn. So that's torn it. I have lost the game. We carried out our orders. We did our best to seize as many escarpments as possible, and in that regard we did much, much better than the opposition. But I'm afraid to say my squad is broken, and we will have no option in the face of a determined German counterattack, even one that involves an unarmed man with a broken LMG. Yes, we have no choice but to pull back. Someone else is going to have to take over from us and seize the objective instead. So in the wider sense, will this bring the offensive to a halt? No, the answer is no, but I'm afraid our part in it has, if anything, proven even more inglorious than the previous mission did. Oh dear. Well, okay. I'll reluctantly give the lads the order to pull back, and I suppose the recriminations will have to wait for the debriefing, which will be the next video. But oh well, I'll have to see what I end up with for mission 3. But suffice to say, that was a bit of an unexpected end to the game. I had a good chance of losing this one, but equally I had a fair chance of winning it at this stage, and it was a bit of a shock. I didn't see a sniper bullet being the deciding factor that ended the game in the Germans' favour, but there we go, snipers for the win. So it just remains to say thank you very much for following the... Oh, sorry, lights just went out. Night fell a bit earlier in this scenario. So no worries, as long as you can still hear my voice. I was just to say thank you very much for sticking with me on what has proven to be a really bizarre video with random... No, I didn't switch that one on. Sorry, I'm having a two-way conversation, everyone. Yes, so we had a really... Oh dear, now the lights are doing a disco thing. Yes, so a random intrusion by gigantic cats and weird behaviour on the part of the house lights. So yeah, this one seems to have been a bit ill-starred. But as ever, I hope you've all enjoyed yourselves. Thank you very much for sticking with me on the series. As always, I really do appreciate your company. A huge hello, a slightly embarrassed one because you've once more witnessed me having my rear end handed to me by the game system, but a massive hello to all my regulars. Thank you for still being here for these. And also a big hello to anyone who's joining us for the first time. If this is your first video, warm welcome to you. Please do have a look round the rest of the channel. If it's Upfront that's brought you here, then please do watch some of the other videos I've put up and do have a bit of an explore. You're more than welcome. Your company, whoever you are and whatever's brought you to this video, has been a great pleasure. It always makes it worth making these, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you in the next video. Thanks very much. Bye.